Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of All Access AM. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for joining us on this Monday. We have a lot to get to as the bowl season for the ACC took a little bit of a U-turn from how it was trending, at least early on with this weekend's action after Christmas in particular, as Cal got things started by blowing a lead against Hawaii. But then the rest of the ACC couldn't get it together either when Bowl Bonanza took place on Saturday outside of Virginia, saving the bacon against Missouri. We break down all those games and more on this edition of All Access AM. Thanks for joining us. We do also have special guest Chad Bishop of the AJC joining us again to break down Georgia Tech. What is next for the Yellow Jackets after Brent Key and Haynes King and everybody could not just get past BYU, blowing a lead in that game as well? A tough situation going into it, as many coaches leaving, Buster Faulkner, Jeep Wade, all of those guys on the offensive side. A lot of changes for the Yellow Jackets, but still, nonetheless, they were one of the top teams in the ACC. We'll talk with Chad Bishop at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time to get the breakdown on what is next for Georgia Tech, as they're still at least searching publicly for an offensive coordinator. We'll check in with that and see how the Yellow Jackets are doing with that search for Brent Key. We appreciate you guys being here. Do me a favor and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've had a bunch of people subscribe. You could hit that QR code in the corner of the screen for me and help me out by hitting subscribe on the channel. That helps grow it. We're looking forward to doing a bunch of cool things around the Cotton Bowl with a special episode dropping Wednesday morning. Again, we're live 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Billy Embody. For those of you who don't know me, we've been at this now for a few months, breaking down everything ACC for you guys for an hour, 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We appreciate all of you guys who have jumped in on the chat with us. But my full-time job is covering SMU. So looking forward to growing this podcast, this show into 2026 as it is rapidly approaching. But I'll also be on the West Coast this week. So 5 a.m. Central Time is a tough wake-up call. So we're going to pre-record our Cotton Bowl show and get a couple special guests on. Hopefully we've got one on the line already, ready to rock for that, and preview Miami, Ohio State, as well as Duke, Arizona State in the Sun Bowl, and get that rocking for you guys. And of course, we will also have the Thursday show live reaction. I'm going to try to go live. Maybe it'll be a post game reaction to Miami, Ohio State, kind of recorded shortly after, but we will break that down Thursday, and we'll kind of be maybe shifting it around to give you guys the best show we can on that front, breaking down the Cotton Bowl. But we appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. I've been taking a bunch of feedback from people that have watched my other shows at ontheponyexpress.com, have watched this show kind of unfold, and are taking notes, filing away some feedback for 2026 to kind of take this up another notch as we get into basketball season and what that looks like for ACC in particular, and what has been a solid non-conference slate for the league, which is coming to a close here in the next couple of days as league play is set to get going. And we'll talk about that a lot, and we will do a lot of basketball-focused things, but we will never let football get away from us. Looking forward to kind of rolling out some of our quote-unquote off-season content, some of our different features or capsules on the show that we want to do. So we appreciate you guys being along for the ride with us on All Access AM. Again, hit that QR code in the corner of the screen to take you right to our YouTube channel to subscribe. We appreciate all the support that you guys have given us. And it really started with some of our partners that helped us launch this show. And one of them in particular, Security National Bank, a family-owned bank for decades now, delivering personal and business wealth journeys that have supported so many of you that know Security National Bank for years now. They have an incredible foundation for you to attack the needs that you are faced, whether it be personally or in the business world. They can handle it all. They also do wealth management as well. They do trust and estate services, all sorts of different avenues for you in the banking world. Security National Bank can help you take care of all of your needs on that front. You can go to securitynational.com bank for more information on how you can work with them and start that process. They have an incredible website with tons of resources, or you can just give them a call, 402 344 7300. They are available Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central, Saturday 9 to noon Central. So we appreciate our friends at Security National Bank for supporting us here on All Access AM. As we look back on this past week of bowl games, we had our Wednesday show, our Christmas Eve show that we brought to you guys, and we kind of packed a lot in there, and we were off on Christmas. But man, I could not tell you how you ever sit on a couch and you're watching a show and it's kind of in that uncomfortable stage for whatever reason, whether it's a horror movie and you know something's about to happen and you're kind of getting uncomfortable, or it's maybe a different show and things are starting to happen. That was what it was like watching the bowl games unfold from Christmas Eve with Cal Hawaii and the Hawaii Bowl to the 4 games that the ACC had on Saturday. It just had this entire uncomfortable feeling for those of you who were locked in watching college football this Christmas long weekend that we had, in a sense. And we will go through these games chronologically. So we'll start with Cal Hawaii. But I do want to say this, and for those who know me, that some of them are either slamming the steering wheel already because they might know what I'm about to say. But I'll say it, bowl games don't matter. And they don't matter from the standpoint of you have completely different teams that are being rolled out there right now. And it's almost not even comparable to the NFL because of the coaching changes that are coming and in place for some of these teams already. You know, the NFL, you're watching the battle for the number 1 pick, and I don't even know who won it, quite frankly. But you're watching the lead up for Raiders Giants unfold, and Max Crosby's like, I don't care about the number 1 pick, you know, trying to get out there and go win the game. And then I saw a report that he was held out. I'm not even sure if he ended up being held out, but that was the positioning that was all going on. But guess what? All those coaches involved in that game, you know, we're having to coach it all out. And for these bowl games in this tight little window, you don't have that. You have coaches that are on the move. You have interim coaches. You have offensive staffs that have been gutted in Georgia Tech's standpoint. There's so many different ways that these teams, from a coaching perspective, aren't there. And then on top of it, players are already leaving. So it's been a really, really tough thing to watch the bowl season and the bowl setup become what it is. I've always looked at it from the standpoint of this. Back in the day, when it was just a national championship game and these bowls really meant something, yeah, you were really trying to go out there, win the game. There's an extra, motivating factor to do that, on top of the gifts, on top of the travel, on top of the whatever. But now you really don't have that. And players are looking out for what's next for them. They're even in negotiations for their next contract, whether their agents are doing it or whether they're doing it. So it creates a precarious situation when it comes to the players and the coaching staff. If a player hasn't resigned, but they're still going through bowl practices, it is all an incredible mess. And how to fix it is a totally separate thing. But what these bowl games don't tell us, really, or could tell us, depending on how you want to play them out and depending on the level of the bowl game, is, hey, I'm really excited about that sophomore that's going to be a junior next year, and he's going to be stepping into the starting role because I saw how well he played in the bowl game. Or, wow, look at how well the coaching staff managed to avoid a letdown with all of the noise that's going on. Like, that's a good thing. Or, wow, we ended up getting a half for our quarterback next year to play against a Power 4 opponent and get him some work. Things like that that really can help energize a fan base. It's almost like an opportunity for you to kind of showcase your future and see what that excitement level could be like for your team going into 2026. If you're asking me for a quick fix, man, I would take bowl games and I would move them to the month of May. And I know that's kind of wild, but if you go through spring ball and you could kind of do spring in all of April and maybe the last weekend of April or the 2 weeks, 2 weekends of April. You can kind of start some earlier, start some later. You could have bowl games every single hour of Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Could be fun. It would be after the Final Four, be after the Masters, be after all those things. Could be a fun opportunity. Of course, you'd have NBA, NHL playoffs, but who knows? Some spring bowl games that would be in nice weather situations on top of that could be opportunities there. Maybe it's something to discuss. But nevertheless, we have bowl games. They are what they are. The idea that you can take them and what they are and take the numbers and the results from a regular season and put them up against each other at times to talk about how well the ACC or another league has done over the course of a year against Power Four opponents, against this opponents, against that opponents. It's kind of wild to me. So not a controversial take, not something that's going to get picked up by any means, but they really just don't matter, and it's a shame. But the at the end of the day, though, we take them for what they are, and they are football games, and they're a lot of fun to watch, and that's why I enjoy it still, even though I'm sitting back there looking and saying this has no impact on how any team or any of these programs should be viewed over the course of this season and this version of this team that we're watching unfold. So it makes it fun because it's kind of like a one-off game that you could look at. And I know there's been some people that said, "Well, put the bowls as the preseason games." That could be an idea. That could be something. But nevertheless, it is football, so it's fun to break down for me. Let's get to it. The Hawaii Bowl, that Christmas Eve matchup, Cal, Hawaii, absolute heartbreaker for Cal. 22 points allowed in the fourth quarter. They lose 35-31 to the Rainbow Warriors out there in Hawaii and finish the season 7-6. I know covering SMU, this is a game that you watch it unfold and you're like just kind of pulling your hair out, rubbing your eyes, just can't believe that SMU did not get it done against Cal when they went out west to play the Golden Bears, and that is why they did not end up in Charlotte. Watching this game unfold, a 9-4 Hawaii team is what they finish as. But Jaron Sagapatelli finishes for 343 yards, 1 touchdown on the night, 28 of 39. Solid numbers for him. Kendrick Raphael, 91 yards. Of course, it was Jacob DeJesus with 137 yards and that lone touchdown through the air. And Sagapatelli did add another rushing touchdown, but too much Hawaii in this one as Luke Weaver made the exclamation point with that touchdown to put Hawaii on top. Incredible comeback for Hawaii, and one of those things where you can't sit there and say, "Oh, someone came out flat and in a sense didn't get up for bowl game or whatever." And this was a 21-10 game at the half. It wasn't out of hand. It wasn't crazy either. But Cal did have a double-digit lead going into halftime, and that's when Hawaii kind of got up, got a field goal in the third quarter, and was able to at least take it to the fourth quarter in a one-score game. And the fourth quarter was wild, man. That was crazy. 21-10. Hawaii outscores Cal in the final stanza, and that is what matters in this one, as they were able to get that 22-yard touchdown pass from Luke Weaver to Nick Sinakel for the 35-31 win. Sagapatelli had just put Cal up, leading that 10-play, 75-yard touchdown drive to take the lead 31-28. It was kind of in a good spot there. You're feeling good about where things stand. And then just it kind of was the complete reverse of what happened to Cal against SMU in a sense. And Hawaii finished the job. They got down there just outside the red zone, threw a touchdown pass, won the game. So a really disappointing result for Cal. I'm sure that staff is kind of gutted because they really wanted to finish this off the right way and kind of hand the reins off to Tosh Lapoy. And it would have been a fun story for Nick Rolovich and that staff to have, kind of galvanize the guys. But Timmy Chang and his Hawaii team, couldn't be denied. And that's why it's a quote unquote 60-minute football game. That's the the cliche thing to say, but it's true. When you let your guard down and things like that, uh, it's unreal. In a Cal pass defense that had been so good this season, allows that touchdown drive to happen in the final moments. Just wild. 488 yards of offense for Cal. They couldn't get it done. No turnovers in this game, but just a good ball game. I mean, for the most part, I actually, quite frankly, turned this off for a while and picked it back up in the fourth quarter when I saw Hawaii had tied it up, and I just couldn't believe what I was watching unfold in those final 15 minutes. Just a crazy fourth quarter. Great football game, but bad news for the ACC. This game is so evenly matched in a sense, outside of Hawaii really not being able to do too much on the ground, but they were able to do enough. Both teams had 8 penalties in the game, but Hawaii only had 55 yards to 85 yards for Cal. Again, just one of those tough situations where you can't finish the job, and that's shocking watching that defense for Cal allow that drive to happen to a backup quarterback nonetheless as well. And even Cal kind of got an opportunity, but couldn't really do anything with it. And that was the end. That was the end of the game. So I was just shocked again, kind of prevent defense for Cal, but Cal had done such a good job of keeping plays in front of them and doing all of those things, but they could not hold off Hawaii on that final drive. So Cal finishes 7-6. They do have a lot to be excited about if you are a Cal football fan. They do have a lot going in the right direction there, as they are making moves when it comes to their coaching staff. Tosh Lupoi has filled out his staff a good bit. Some of those guys who have been added were announced over the weekend and brought over from Oregon. 4 new coaches joining Cal from Oregon. We'll run them down really quick. A name that's familiar to a lot of people, at least in my neck of the woods, in my world, is Zach Tinker. He is coming over as a special teams coach. He was the Oregon special teams analyst and has been out west for a long, long time, and had been a D2 head coach at South Dakota. And he has been really out there for a while. It's just a name that I know from kind of following coaching moves and coaching carousel and some names out west. So that is I would say a good hire for Cal to bring Zach Tinker, a veteran coach, into that situation. So Darian Daniels is going to be the defensive line coach for Cal, and was also named the pass rush specialist. He is from Texas. I remember watching him come up through the recruiting ranks as well when I was kind of early on getting my start in the industry. He is and it was still kind of even deep into my start, so to speak, but a former Bishop Dunn defensive lineman out of Dallas, Texas, ends up going to Nebraska and bouncing around a little bit with the portal and things like that, as he went to Oklahoma State as well. But he comes over from Oregon as well, and he's going to be the defensive line coach. And then Steve Haugna, I think I pronounced that right. Maybe everything's silent there, but he's going to be the Cal tight ends coach. He comes over as well from Oregon after being there for 4 seasons. He is going to work under Jordan Somerville, the young offensive coordinator that Tosh Lupoi tabbed to be calling the plays for the Bears. And he's been kind of all over a little bit. He's been at Cal before and was there as a strength staff intern before, so he's familiar with it. He's bounced around a little bit as well. He's been in North Texas on top of that too. So I think Cal, one thing that you watch a couple of these guys that have been hired, Cal's done a good job of at least being a factor in the state of Texas, and you can get guys that want to come out west and experience something new. That's the same thing Stanford should be doing. Andrew Luck's a Texas high school football product. They've had some really nice players come through that program. Both of these players should be trying to get into Texas and doing that. And then new Cal safeties coach is Connor Boyd. He was a student assistant at Alabama before moving on to Jacksonville State as a grad assistant, and he has bounced around before landing at Oregon, and now he comes over to work with Devon Brown, and he is going to be heading up that secondary and be the co-defensive coordinator. So 8 of his assistants are now in. Defense coordinator Michael Hutchings, of course, Somerville, Devon Brown, and Keith Bonamfa, the running backs coach. So a lot of moves being made for Cal, and they'll have quite the situation to build around with Jaron Kiowa Sagapatelli back in the fold. Before we get to this Saturday bonanza, which will include Georgia Tech as well, do want to remind you guys about our friends at Sportsmo. We know, and I've watched Cal do this, they're doing a match for fundraising for NIL. But if you want to help your college program out, you can do it with our friends at Sportsmo. Go to sportsmo.org to learn more about how you can pledge micro donations based on how your teams do on the field and on the court. And those are opportunities for you to say, hey, if they hit 10 or if they throw 3 touchdown passes, I'm going to donate $20. If they get the win, I'm going to donate 25. If they rush for 100 yards, I'm going to donate $5. You can do micro donations. You can do big donations. They're tax deductible, and they go right to your favorite college's student athlete fund for NIL. So learn more about our friends at Sportsmo and how they can directly impact your program's NIL and revenue sharing fund for your school by downloading the app Sportsmo today.
Sportsmo lets you make a more direct impact on the game because it lets you, the fans, fund your favorite college football teams in a straightforward way. In a you win and I'll give way. In a I need you to show me your running game is alive and then I'll donate way. These real-time tax-deductible microfunds lead to impact your team can feel. Every cent you send mixes with every drop of sweat they put in. Form your squad. Boost your friends when a play comes through. A new way to follow the game. And cha-ching, your favorite team. So what do you say, difference makers? Ready to power the play? Sportsmo. Download today. Let's smo.
That's right. Let's smo, and let's smo on with the show as we get to East Carolina Pitt. This was a game that, talk about pulling your hair out. The way Pitt lost this game with 5 turnovers and all of these things is just unbelievable. And I mean, Pat Narduzzi has done a lot of good in that program, but man, I've not seen Twitter light him up like that. And that comes on the heels of him saying what he said about the Notre Dame game and how much he cared about it and winning it and all of those things. But he's now 1-3 in bowl games against Group of 5 opponents. And that is something that the Pitt fans have certainly, honed in on. And that's where, again, you look at where bowl games are at. It's the talking points that you can get that are negative and loud and all of those things for all sorts of programs and all sorts of leagues. And that's where people also at the same time don't necessarily dive down deep into them. Pitt was without Desmond Reed. They were without Kyle Lewis. East Carolina is a team that was obviously going to be fired up to be there. But I did not think that Pitt's offense would play the way they did. You look at what Pitt did, 376 total yards, ECU 249, but Pitt had 5 turnovers on the day, 1 interception thrown by Mason Heinchel. It wasn't his best stuff. He threw for a touchdown. He threw for 256 yards through the air. But this Pitt team just was all over the place. Special teams miscues. It was ugly out there for Pitt and how they lost this game in a game that at one point, I believe it was the first half, the two teams maybe had a combined total 209 yards or something. It was maybe the lowest offensive output combined in terms of yardage in bowl games of the year so far. Or something. It was crazy. A really rough bowl game and kind of reflected the early morning start out there in the Military Bowl for this one out in Annapolis. But when you look at what happened to Pitt, they could not get away from these miscues and avoid the costly mistakes that they had after having a 14-10 lead. And ECU was able to storm back and again come from behind in a sense and win this one and chalk Pitt. And Pitt had an opportunity to win the game. They had the ball in the final minute and couldn't get it done. And it's a frustrating game to watch unfold if you're a Pitt Panther fan, to see an ECU team who finishes 9-4 on the year, but also a Pitt team that had everything in front of itself with an opportunity to really punch its ticket to an ACC championship game, with an opportunity to make a statement. They couldn't do that, and they finish 8-5 on the year. So really, Pat Narduzzi and this Pitt program, they're having struggles finishing, and that's really the more concerning thing that we're watching unfold with this Pitt program is the lack of finish the last couple of years after so much excitement has really built up. Pat Narduzzi also making the play to kick the field goal and make it a one-score game. I get it, but still, you got to play the odds there a little bit there in a sense when they were down at the ECU 3. And then you can maybe make your move after that and hope that you get the ball back, which you did. Your defense gave you a 3 and out, and instead you needed a touchdown in the final minute to tie and win the game in a sense, but they couldn't get that done overall. So Pitt finishes 8-5, and East Carolina finishes 9-4. This was a boring game. Pitt just shot themselves in the foot repeatedly, and that is what you're going to get when you do that. Is a group of 5 team that gets up, takes advantage, and is able to beat you. And that is not what the doctor ordered from Pat Narduzzi. There's a lot to like about Pitt with what they have with Cade Bell and Mason Heinchel returning next year and expected to return. If Mason Heinchel were to leave, that would be just devastating for this program and where it's at. But a lot to be proud of if you're Pitt. You have a quarterback of the future. If they can get that finalized and get him back, you'll be in great shape. And if not, this will be a team that could kind of get back down into, not irrelevancy, but a very much mediocre program without some major changes in terms of how they attack the back half of the season. So Mason Heinchel, a lot to like about him, but that was not his best outing by any means. But there are a lot of other miscues that led to East Carolina getting it done against Pitt. Speaking of getting it done, our friend Chad Bishop continues to get it done for the Georgia Tech fans out there needing all the news. And this Georgia Tech team finishes up its season with a loss to BYU, a tough one in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. We did not get to see Brent Key get the Pop-Tarts out of the toaster or anything like that. That's unfortunate, Chad, but this was a game that for many of the fans out there, they're locked in. I mean, this is one of the big bowl games, but unfortunately for Georgia Tech, they could not get it done, losing 25-21 in Haynes King's final game for Georgia Tech.
Really first of all, good morning, Billy. Great to see you.
Good morning.
I'm still stuffed full of Pop-Tarts, but I'm here, man. Really kind of a microcosm of Georgia Tech's entire season, right? Tech starts off 8-0 and loses 4 of 5, and then in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, they're suddenly up 21-10, and things seem to be going swimmingly, and folks are starting to celebrate maybe too early, and BYU comes rolling back with 15 straight to end the game. And so really a disappointing ending to the game, a disappointing ending to the season. A lot of questions of what could have been Saturday in the Pop-Tarts Bowl and what could have been for Georgia Tech's entire season. Just seemed like for the season as a whole, Tech sort of ran out of gas. And then in the Pop-Tarts Bowl as a whole, they just sort of ran out of gas toward the end. So kind of interesting how those things sort of lined up similarly. The way things all played out. I think folks kind of forget that BYU was 11-2 coming into that game and had Bear Bachmeier at quarterback and was a fringe playoff team and is going to end up ranked in the top 10. They were an outstanding football team, and they showed that against Georgia Tech, but certainly Georgia Tech missed a golden opportunity to make a statement of their own.
And Georgia Tech led 21-10. That's the second bowl game that we've talked about with a 21-10 lead at half. They don't get anything going offensively in the second half. What was that difference from the BYU defense that was able to just hold off Georgia Tech and kind of settle things down for them enough to allow their offense to maybe figure some things out and then finish it off with a 15-point fourth quarter?
I think you had to give credit to BYU for sort of committing to stopping the run. Georgia Tech, drove the ball early in that third quarter. They started the third quarter with a masterful drive and looked like they were going to put points on the board and fumbled in the red zone. And red zone hadn't been an issue for Georgia Tech all season, but scoring touchdowns in the red zone had been a huge area of concern for this Georgia Tech team. So once again, they get down there and let it go. And then BYU clearly made some adjustments in terms of trying to stuff the run and make Georgia Tech beat them with the throw and the passing game. Tech still hung in there, though, and they had that field goal attempt toward the end of the third quarter. And when that thing was blocked, that really shifted momentum completely to the BYU sideline and took all the air out of the Georgia Tech team. So I think, again, the Cougars really, bowed up and said, hey, we're going to stop this run. And Georgia Tech really wasn't willing to run the ball with Haynes King. And we don't know why, if that was, if there was an injury circumstance, if that was just part of the game plan where they knew that BYU's defense was very good at stopping a running quarterback because they faced their own guy, Baird Bachmeier, every day in practice. That could have been some of it. But BYU's ability to sort of hone in and shut down Tech's run game, I think, was a big difference in that second half. And, BYU, again, being such a good team and such a good program year after year, they know how to win these games and come back and take control. So they certainly did that and proved their worth toward the end. And like you mentioned, got to celebrate with eating some edible mascots.
Yeah. And I think one of the big differences too, Georgia Tech's been a top 15 team in third down offense. 4 of 12 against BYU, just didn't get it done. Do you think, some of the changes around town were, not to blame or whatever, but it just seemed like BYU knew exactly what was happening on third down?
Yeah. Again, credit to BYU for their game plan, for the way they were attacking Georgia Tech. Like you said, seemed to sort of not necessarily know what was coming on those third downs, but really dialed up a lot of great things. Jay Hill, the defensive coordinator, obviously did a very, very good job for that BYU defense. I don't read too much into Buster Faulkner not being there, for Georgia Tech. Chris Winkie was the co-offensive coordinator all season long. Brent Key is an offensive dude. And Haynes King is basically a mini offensive coordinator out there as a 3-year starter at quarterback. So it's not like Buster Faulkner left and took the playbook with him and they were sort of lost out there. There was just, again, when you go back to the microcosm of the entire Tech season, there just seemed to be a disconnect at times, and those things get magnified in the loss. I think all that goes away if Haynes King makes a couple throws on that final drive inside the BYU 20-yard line in the fourth quarter. But, yeah, again, they're magnified in a bowl game. When things don't go their way. And again, it's just as the season went on, there seemed to be some disconnects for whatever reason. And then that rose its ugly head again Saturday too, because there were some open receivers, there were some running lanes for Haynes King, and things didn't really seem to sync up throughout the 60 minutes of that game.
When you look at what's next for Georgia Tech, last time we talked to you, it kind of, I don't want to say everything was peachy. They were coming off the NC State loss, but Buster Faulkner was one of the top paid offensive coordinators in the ACC. Now he's headed to the SEC, brings a bunch of his staff with him, seen other staff depart for other jobs. Yeah. What is your vantage point of this offensive staff and what's next for Brent Key at the top there?
This is a clear demarcation line in Brent Key's tenure, right? Like the past 3 years, they have built and built and built. They've had Buster Faulkner, Chris Winkie, Haynes King, a ton of offensive leadership, ton of elder guys on that offensive side. And those guys are gone now. And Brent Key's offseason is going to be filled with making coaching hires. His running backs coach is gone. His offensive line coach is gone. He's already replaced that, by the way. His offensive coordinator is gone. There's reports that wide receivers coach Trent McKnight is also leaving. And then, like I mentioned, not only is Haynes King gone, running back Jamal Haynes, wide receiver Malik Rutherford, guard Keelan Rutledge is going to go to the NFL and have a long career in the NFL. This is a clear shift, right, for this Georgia Tech team. And then defensively, when you look at it, Clayton Powlea is safety, gone. Omar Daniels is safety, gone. Amari Harvey, Rodney Shelley, defensive backs, gone. Jordan Vandenberg at tackle, gone. They're going to have to go out and not only hire some big time names when it comes to staff, but they're going to have to go not necessarily Texas Tech style, but they're going to have to go out and spend some money in the transfer portal and really build up this roster. Brent Key's not afraid to do that, man. He talks all the time about getting better or getting worse. No one stays the same, that old adage. He knows, and he's got some money to play around with. There was a recent announcement that there was 2 separate $10 million gifts to the program. He got a $2 million advantage in his salary pool for assistants going into 2026. So there's money to be spent. It's just all about spending it the correct way. And the pressure is going to be on him to go out and figure that out. It's something he loves to do and something he talks about doing, how he studies NFL organizations and NFL roster charts on how to spend that money. And he's got to figure out the best way to do it for Georgia Tech, because they're going to need a lot of bodies and a lot more talent and a lot more depth, because a lot of these guys are exiting stage left. And again, it's a clear shift in this Georgia Tech program for Brent Key moving into 2026.
As far as offensive coordinator goes, do you have a feel for what he wants to do there, or where that even process stands? Because there's been Chip Kelly, there's been other links to that position, and with what Georgia Tech is willing to pay, it's certainly I would say a very nice gig to have. And even with Aaron Philo leaving the program, it was a program that you could tell after losing an Eric Singleton and some of those things last offseason, they came out and still ramped it back up offensively and were able to make things happen.
Yeah, Brent Key has been adamant about, when this all happened, his phone ringing off the hook and just he himself being blown away by the interest out there from outside people wanting to know about this Georgia Tech position and this Georgia Tech program. What I would tell folks is, do not expect Brent Key to go out and hire someone who's going to run the run and gun, who's going to go 5 wide air raid, who's all of a sudden going to be, pistol option or some sort of mesh concepts. Their offense is going to be very similar. We'll have different pieces and different nuances, sure. But Brent Key and Chris Weinke and Buster Faulkner built this thing up for 3.5, 4 years. They're not about to reinvent the wheel in the offseason. So to me, that tells me that the offensive coordinator hire is not going to come in again, change the entire offense, but it's going to fit what they already have, number one. And number two is going to be a big-time recruiter. I mean, you know this, Billy. Everything comes down to recruiting and player acquisition and talent and Jimmys and Joes. So to me, it's not necessarily this, a wizard of offense who comes in and just, totally, blows up the stat sheet and is just putting up gaudy numbers. It's also, can this guy come in and get some big-time talent into Georgia Tech? Does this person have connections to the area? Does he have connections to 4 stars and 5 stars across the country? To me, that's what it comes down to, because this offense, again, it's not going to change. It'll probably be a little less quarterback run, right? But maybe they go get a running quarterback, dual threat quarterback in the transfer portal. You're never going to have a Haynes King again, but you're still going to have a lot of the counter option plays. You're still going to have a lot of the bubble screens. You're still going to have a lot of motions and shifts and getting the ball to a million different people on that offensive roster. Again, I would be very, very shocked if they brought in just some random name who tries to completely overhaul the offense and make it their own. This thing is pretty set in stone.
And the offense was great for the most part this year. There's obviously that, moments or whatever where you wonder, okay, what happened against the Georgia, that was an opportunity where, the Yellow Jackets actually showed up defensively a little bit too. So that kind of lack of complementary football down the stretch was a little concerning. But what do you think they're going to do at quarterback? I mean, we talk about the offensive coordinator, but is that, offensive coordinator, let's get that hired, let's get that situated? Or obviously with like money and what the portal offers, you can go out and sign a quarterback now and say, hey, but trust us, we're going to bring in somebody you're going to like offensively at the coordinator spot.
I think they have to clearly, obvious. This is very obvious. They have to make a decision. Do you want to ride with Graham Knowles, the 6'7" redshirt freshman from Texas, to be your guy for the next 2-3 years, or do you want to go out and get a transfer? And I don't think it's a program that's going to go out and get a 1-year guy. Brent Key's very high on bringing in transfers who have 2, 3, sometimes even 4 years left. So I think that's the decision they have to make. Is Graham Knowles ready to be the starting quarterback for Georgia Tech? And if so, you throw resources around him, bulk up your offensive line and your skill positions, spend money there, and hope that he can develop in the right way. If you don't think he's ready, and then you sort of roll the dice and you go get a big time transfer. And as you know, man, there's like 50, 60 quarterbacks out there. They're out there. You can go get one. I mean, it's free agency every single year. And Chris Weinke and Brent Key have connections out the wazoo. So there's no doubt that they know some of these guys out there they could go in and bring in. It's going to be an interesting scenario of which direction they do. But I think the good news for them is they have that option, right? It's not like they're stuck in this place where they don't really have an arm to go to, because they got, like I said, Graham Knowles, Grady Adamson is behind him. They bring in Cole Bergeron from Louisiana as a true freshman. So it's just a matter of, do we stick with some of the guys we got and we've recruited and hope that they're ready to blossom, or maybe not yet, and we go get a redshirt sophomore or a junior out there who has a couple years. We all forget that Haynes King played 3 years at Texas A&M, and they knew he had a couple years left, and that's why they brought him in to develop and be the type of quarterback he was. So it could be a similar situation there. I kind of lean toward they're probably going to go get a quarterback, whether that quarterback is the starter going into 26 or maybe a guy who's also a young kid to sort of bulk up that room. I always say quarterbacks, man, is like starting pitchers. You can't have too many, and you just never know. So you got to bulk up that room for sure.
Blake Gideon and that defense, obviously now we've seen what they are capable of at times, playing against Georgia and holding them to, an opportunity where Georgia Tech, if they could have gotten some things going offensively, we've taken that rivalry game and won it. But, for the most part, struggled this year. And is there any rumor around that job being something where that could make a change now that the season's over, or do you think that is set in stone? He's going to return and all of those things, and they just need to figure out some, I would say, major tweaks to make to get that on the right track.
Yeah, I expect Blake Gideon to be back, and for a few reasons. It was his first ever season as a defensive coordinator, right? I mean, your reputation as a coach becomes pretty damning if you're just firing guys year after year after year, right? Yeah. Like, you got to give this guy a chance. I think the thing that I would say is maybe expect with Georgia Tech's defensive staff is some shifts. Blake Gideon was not a position coach this year. He was strictly a defensive coordinator. Maybe he goes back to coaching safeties or defensive backs along with his defensive coordinator role. Maybe there's some defensive assistants who maybe pop up in other places. And again, Georgia Tech has the ability to go buy some big time assistants with the money that they have and the money they're going to be able to spend. The other thing is, in 2025, Georgia Tech in the transfer portal did not really hit. They had Braden Manley come in, Ronald Triplett come in, Matthew Alexander, Akilo Stone. Those guys were good in spots, but they did not have the seasons that Georgia Tech had hoped. And so I think going into 2026, they really have to do a better job of scouting the transfer portal. They've recruited very well on the defensive side. They signed a lot more guys again on the defensive side. But it's going to be a matter of, instead of maybe going out and getting the Southern Conference Player of the Year, maybe you go out and get a top name from the Sun Belt, right, or the American, or maybe even a power forward transfer. Their transfers in 2025 just did not hit, to be honest. And so it's going to have to be a matter of getting a lot more talent in there. I think Brent Key, when he came in, that roster was more or less set. He was handed, a defense. And now in this offseason, I think he's going to have the ability to go out and work with Brent Key and say, we need this player, we need to bulk up this position group, we need this transfer, and so on and so on. So I think in 2026, you're going to see more of his defense than it was in 2025. Not making excuses for him. I mean, that defense was really, really bad at times. But also after halftime in that Pittsburgh game, they played fairly well. And they gave up 42 points to Pittsburgh, but 7 of those were on a pick six in the second half. So they really only gave up 7 in the second half, held Georgia to 16, and BYU scored 25. So it wasn't a complete meltdown there toward the end of the year. They rebounded. So if they can build on that, bulk up those Jimmies and Joes, I think you'll see a better defense in 2026.
We'll get you out of here with this big picture on Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Ryan Alpert's come in as the AD and just seems like he's brought another level of energy and just kept building on what Georgia Tech had going and under that previous administration, which did a great job.
Yeah.
Where is the school at with this whole world of, revenue sharing, NIL, facilities projects that are going? It just seems like Georgia Tech is just pouring money in. It's one of those schools that maybe isn't getting talked about enough as far as being, quote unquote, all in particular on football?
I've used the term a little hesitantly of sleeping giant, because that's a term we use a lot with a group of five, right? Like a James Madison or something. Like if this program could, but I kind of view that, I kind of view Georgia Tech in a similar light. Like they have been a little sleepy for a while. You had the Jeff Collins era where they lost a ton of games. Even Brent Key's first 2 years, 7-6, but all of a sudden, boom, they're 9-4. I alluded earlier to the $20 million they've got recently, anonymous gifts to the football program and the athletic department. Dr. Angel Cabrera, the president, is all in on athletics. We've seen the contract extensions for Brent Key, which have included increased salary pool for the assistants. They're building a new fanning center on the corner of the stadium that's going to have weight rooms and coaches' offices and sports science and analytics and sports nutrition and all these things. There's renovation to the stadium coming. This place is turned all in to football, because I think they understand it's you either adapt or you die in this new college football world. And Georgia Tech really seems to be adapting. They've shown no signs of being hesitant toward making football a primary part of the Institute of Technology. And so with all that being said, now it's up to Brent Key, like we mentioned, to increase the roster, to build the staff, to continue to put a competitive team out there, which plays a murderous schedule the next 2 years. But they're all in, man. They want to be part of this new age of college football. I think the future is incredibly bright if they continue on this track and to continue to put resources into the program, which they've done to this point. So, again, I think if they continue on this kind of slow build, this slow trajectory, they're going to sniff the playoffs every single year. It's just going to be a matter of getting over that hump.
It'll be fascinating to watch. Chad Bishop, we know you'll keep us up to date on all of that. We appreciate you stopping by. We hope you had a great Christmas, my friend. And thanks
I did have a great Christmas.
Look. I was about to say you got it. Nice. I love it. Hey, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, shout out to them for putting on a great bowl game. But right back in July in Charlotte, they were there with us to kick off ACC Media Day. They treated us well.
I always tell folks I'll never forget Haynes King sitting on a couch doing a one-on-one interview with me, just going to town on a Pop-Tarts ice cream sandwich, man. And I was like, how is that? And he's like, it's fine, but seriously, man, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, it really was reminiscent of bowl games in the old days. Like the teams were together at the amusement park, at nightly celebrations. They were competitive. Everybody was into it. There were a couple opt-outs and injuries here and there. BYU missing LJ Martin, and Georgia Tech had a couple guys not play. But Tech had 100 scholarship guys there ready to go, and BYU's almost full roster was there. The fans, 34,000 in attendance. Georgia Tech on one side, BYU on one side. It was great, man. Pop-Tarts Bowl did it right. I hope it stays that way. Really, really fun bowl game to be a part of.
I think both of those teams reflected their head coaches and just. Those teams are always going to show up. There's no almost wiggle room in terms of that mentality to show up.
Definitely. A lot of fun to see. And I think Kalani Sitake and Brent Key, bromance movie coming to theater soon. Those guys clearly love each other.
Well, they can build their love around losing a coordinator each. It looks.
I'm looking for a home and home, man. I need a home and home. I need to go to Provo.
Yes. Go see it, man. Yeah. Send them out there. We'll pub you up when you do. So
love it.
All right, safe drive over to the Birmingham Bowl and enjoy that one. Georgia Southern action. All right.
Yeah, buddy.
There he goes. Thanks a lot, Chad Bishop, for joining us on All Access AM. Great friend of the show there. And we have a couple more bowl games to get to. We also we're going to start doing straight up roundup for you guys, because we do kick off the day for you guys. We feel like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 to 8 a.m. Central, 8 to 9 Eastern, live on YouTube. And I want to hit on basketball scores for you guys, if anything. So we'll start doing that. And remind me in the comments if you say, hey, Billy, you missed that one. What were you doing? Oh, yeah, that's right. We're getting into a new routine. We're going to just run down the scores for you guys of the teams, especially in league play. We want to give you guys a little snapshot, even if we don't do a podcast that is a podcast that is basketball focused that day, maybe a little bit more football offseason, maybe transfer portal, maybe whatever. We want to end the podcast for you guys with kind of a little lagniappe, a little something extra for you guys, which would be the basketball scores kind of from the games that we missed. So it won't be in-depth breakdown, what have you. It'll be, I'll give you a little preview at the end of the show. The score, kind of that, and the record. And once we get going in ACC play, we'll run down the standings of where this league stands each podcast. So kind of a make sure you always know where the league stands from a basketball standpoint. So we hope that is something that you guys like. But we do have 2 more bowl games to get to. Before we get to that, I do want to remind you guys about our friends at Corporate Magic. Corporate Magic, just an incredible event company for you and your company to consider when it comes to putting on a world-class event. There are very few companies that can do it at the level that Corporate Magic can do it at, and that is why we invite you to go to corporatemagic.com for more information on how their team can bring their decades of experience to your project. They can plan, design, and use technology to keep your audiences fully engaged, whether it's dramatic staging, dynamic content, or the precision needed for live television even. Corporate Magic delivers with accuracy and care. Proudly based in Dallas, this production company develops everything for your show or event, whether it's national sales meetings, global broadcasts, and other events and productions seen by millions. Corporate Magic delivers at the highest possible level. So visit corporatemagic.com for more on how they can help your next event turn into that world-class experience for your customers. So appreciate their support of All Access AM. Again, hit that QR code in the corner of your screen if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching us on Twitter, and you can scan that QR code. Make sure you do that, and it'll take you right to All Access AM's YouTube channel and subscribe. We've had a few of you guys who have done that, and I know we started the show right below 2:30, so we are now above that. So we appreciate you guys who have helped us out and hit that subscribe button to the channel. It is going to be a lot of fun breaking down the Cotton Bowl on Wednesday. We're looking forward to that. And so we appreciate you guys who support the show and help us grow this. People like Chad jumping on, people like some of our special guests that we've had on throughout the first few months of this. All of that is possible by you guys subscribing and keeping this ball rolling. So we appreciate all of you guys who do that and subscribe to the channel. 2 more bowl games, Penn State, Clemson. I mean, this could be the opt-out bowl, the whatever you want to call it. But Clemson was basically without their entire defense, it felt like, going into this one. Funny enough, the defense stepped up in a big way. This was a 6-3 barn burner at halftime, a scoreless third quarter in the Pinstripe Bowl, the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl in Yankee Stadium, which actually the snow kind of stopped and was able to give them a good enough field for this to be played on. 22-10, though, Penn State beats Clemson. 7-6 teams. Penn State does win a bowl game after firing James Franklin. So good for them. Ethan Grunkemeyer, 260 yards. Cade Klubnik, 193 yards, 22 of 39. Just couldn't get it done in a lot of different ways offensively. And, I wonder what Dabo Swinney's going to do. The only touchdown on the day had Adam Randall touchdown run. They've got to go out and get a running back, which we've talked about on the Christmas wish list podcast that we did for ACC teams, because they finished with just 43 yards on the ground in a cold weather game. Penn State, meanwhile, ran the ball 41 times for 137 yards on the ground. That included sack yardage. Quentin Martin Jr. had 20 carries, 103 yards for Penn State, averaged 5.2 yards per carry. Penn State was just able to play kind of a throwback brand of football to what you'd expect a Penn State team to do. They won the time of possession 33 minutes or so to Clemson's 27. They neither team turned the ball over, though, and Penn State played pretty clean. This is there's 4 combined penalties between the two teams. So Penn State got it done. I was kind of waiting for that moment that Cade Klubnik would do something and lead them down the field, and they had opportunities. They were in the red zone and I believe missed a field goal. I was watching it and kind of doing some family time things as well, but it was on, and I'd seen the pass from Cade Klubnik that fell incomplete on third down, and then I looked up and I was expecting the game to be tied, and it was not. So just kind of a mess as far as that for Clemson, and they could not get it done. So maybe I missed something on that. Yeah, missed field goal in the second quarter that would have had it at least tied and going into halftime, and maybe feel differently about it. But Clemson just couldn't figure it out. And Dabo Swinney, I'm telling you, I don't know. I'll say this. I don't know if Dabo Swinney is trying to get fired by Clemson, and not certainly this offseason, but man, he is saying some things after games that if you're a major college football program would drive every single fan absolutely up the wall. And his comments, and I know how Dabo is, but talking about um, how everybody expects him to win games and things like that, but he is about developing men, which is incredible. And it's what college sports should be about, but it's also not what you want to be, I think, getting out there in your messaging when you lose to a team that is working with an interim coach and not at the standard that you would expect. And it, he kind of gaslights a fan base at times, and he gaslights media. And I have a ton of respect for what he's built, but it is his messaging is something that that is something that he has to figure out, because it is going to tick some people off eventually. And eventually somebody is going to say, you know what, I've had enough. And that somebody is going to have enough money to make a change at Clemson. And that is going to be a brutal day for all parties whenever it does come, because one day it will come. And I think this season has shown that Dabo Swinney's tenure, whenever it ends at Clemson, it will end ugly. It will be like a TCU Gary Patterson type of, sever the ties. I think that's because you have Dabo, who's very set in his ways, and he has to adjust with whatever they're going to do in the transfer portal and all of those things. But I think he has to adjust his messaging a little bit. And fans in this day and age of college football generally are not the greatest, because they are more impatient than ever. And they, in particular, don't have patience for coaches that want to use messaging the way Dabo did after his bowl game. And I think he's going to have to kind of change some things, because just the way he is messaging things is just kind of borderline gaslighting for the product that they put out there for the majority of this season. And I say this having watched them finish this 2025 season really strong. So something to maybe file away. Maybe you could come back to and laugh at me 10 years down the road when Dabo Swinney retires and they unveil the statue on his final game day in Clemson or what have you. But I just don't see whenever that marriage ends, I don't see it ending well. And it's because Dabo is very set in his ways, and whatever the world of college football is that we're living in when that comes, I don't see it being very fun for anyone, which would be sad. So we'll see. They have a lot to work on in the offseason. Let's finish with this, and we'll get to the college basketball rundown that I want to do for you guys over this weekend's game. But Virginia, and 58 minutes and 45 seconds into the show, we talk about the team that actually won a bowl game for the ACC this weekend. Virginia gave up a touchdown on the opening drive of Missouri, and I was thinking, oh man, this is going to be ugly. This is going to be a game that Missouri's going to just take it to them. Ahmad Hardy had a 43-yard run on the opening drive. They gave up an explosive, and they allowed Missouri to get rolling and take advantage of a short field after the long kickoff return. But after that, Missouri was held scoreless the rest of the way as Virginia won 13-7 in the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl, finishing the only 11-win season in Virginia program history. Really special for Chandler Morris to potentially go out this way. They're working on a waiver, but Tony Elliott and the staff, for the job they did to get to an ACC championship game. They have a lot of work to do to get back and keep this thing rolling, but they're going to finish in the top 25. They're going to finish with a lot of things to be proud of, and the way they played, the way they competed at a high level. a defensive slugfest in this one. Virginia outgained Missouri 308 yards to 260. Missouri did have 159 yards on the ground. Ahmad Hardy held to 89 yards. Matt Zollers, 12 of 22 in the game, finished with just 101 yards passing. He did throw an interception, and Virginia was able to really play that brand of football that you'd expect from them. They possessed the ball 38 minutes to 21 minutes over Missouri. An impressive feat in that regard, rushing for 110 yards. The way Virginia played this game is the way Duke played Virginia in the ACC championship, in my opinion, and the way Wake Forest played Virginia in their game where Chandler Morris was injured earlier this season. It felt like it, watching it unfold. Virginia just grinded out the clock over and over again on their drives. They had drives that took 10 plays, 51 yards, went 5.5 minutes, 12 plays, 42 yards, 550, 11 plays, 54 yards, 4 minutes. They had their first punt was late. Their final drive of the first half took 45 seconds. Then they opened the third quarter and go on a 19-play, 75-yard drive that took 10 minutes off the clock. And then Matt Zollers throws the interception, and Virginia takes 3 minutes off the clock to get a field goal in 7 plays. So terrific job. And then the fourth quarter was a lot of back and forth, punt, downs, punt, end of the game. And that was it. And so Virginia, while kind of having to hang on by the hair of their chin, especially when Missouri was able to get down just outside the red zone and have a shot to win the game on that fourth down throw. And they could not get it done. And it's unfortunate, but for Missouri, but Virginia fans in the ACC will absolutely take that as they were able to get a massive win to at least have the nightcap there for ACC fans to be happy with over the course of that that what was a otherwise brutal Saturday of bowl games for the ACC. So did not nearly spend enough time talking about some of these bowl games, in particular the Virginia job that they did, but man, they just played such a great brand of football for Virginia, and that defense deserves a lot of credit, bottling up Ahmad Hardy for the most part in that one. So a great game. We appreciate you guys watching. We are going to do our basketball roundup now, and give feedback in the comments or the live comments, however you want to do it, on our All Access AM YouTube channel. We'll do this at the end of every show now that we're in ACC basketball play, and it's something that we'll do next football season as basketball's getting going too. It'll be, I think, a nice way for you guys who kick off your mornings with us to get the rundown on kind of where the league is. And some of it in non-conference is going to be a little boring at times with some of the games that we see unfold, but you do get Stanford that beats Cal State Northridge 88-80 on Saturday in a game that was a lot closer than it probably should have been. And Stanford was actually down at the half 38-33, but then scored 55 points in the second half to grab the win. Stanford improves to 11-2 overall this season. They are sitting at 7-2 at home heading into league play. They are in the top half of the ACC as far as win-loss going into it. The ACC has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams with double-digit wins over the course of play going into this Monday, which has no games on hand. Tuesday night does kick off ACC play, but before that, we got to get to Sunday's matchups. Boston College beat Lemoyne 72-64. Man, BC sits at 7-6 overall in the year now, and they're going to be one of the worst teams in the ACC. Don't believe me? Look at the standings. They are tied at the bottom with Florida State and Pitt at 7-6, the bottom of the ACC in terms of obviously non-conference play. So they're out of the NCAA tournament pretty much before it even kicks off. Georgia Tech took care of Florida A&M 89-65 to improve to 9-4 overall. They go 9-1 in non-conference play at home as well. And then SMU put up 110 points on Cal State Fullerton, 110-63. SMU finishes non-conference play 11-2. Their 2 losses coming to SEC foes LSU and Vanderbilt. For SMU, they did top the 100-point mark for the 9th time in the Andy Enfield era already. The number 1 coach in terms of 100-point games at SMU is Doc Hayes with 12. Obviously a different world. Sonny Allen with 11, Bob Pruitt with 10. Andy Enfield is, SMU hopes gets the double digits a couple times over the course of league play, but nevertheless, he's well on his way to hitting that record with the most 100-point games coached by an SMU coach. And that is the 4th time this year SMU has hit 100 points in the game, in games this year. So that was the Sunday matchups. Tuesday night, we kick off ACC basketball. And here are the matchups for you guys to know Tuesday night. Well, there's 4 of them. I'll share them all. Florida State opens ACC play at North Carolina, 6 p.m. Central on ESPN2. Pitt at Miami, 6 p.m. on ACC Network. Louisville heads all the way out to California for an 8 p.m. matchup on ACC Network. Man, if that was a little closer for the Holiday Bowl for SMU, I might make the trip to that. Notre Dame goes to Stanford, 8 p.m. on ESPN2. Those are your 4 ACC games. On December 30th, we'll break down the New Year's Eve matchups on our Wednesday show to cap that show as well. And we'll recap what happens Tuesday night as league play opens for ACC basketball. A look at the standings here, and I will show you guys this on the screen if you're watching on YouTube as well. And we'll get this all lined up next time. But I like flying around ESPN's standings. They're really easy. Cal, 12-1, sitting there at the top with North Carolina at 12-1 through non-conference play. Duke, 11-1. Virginia, 11-1. And then Miami, SMU, Stanford, Virginia Tech at 11-2. Louisville, 10-2. Clemson, 10-3. Georgia Tech, NC State, Notre Dame, Syracuse, Wake Forest at 9-4. And then BC, Florida State, and Pitt at 7-6 on the year so far. So hope you guys enjoyed this edition of All Access AM. I'm going to get you guys out of here. Gave you guys an extra 10 minutes. Please, so to speak, extra 10 minutes. Please scan that QR code and subscribe to the All Access AM YouTube channel. You can also click the link in our podcast episode description to go to the YouTube channel and click subscribe. It supports the show. You can also comment on Spotify now, I believe. So I will start checking those and do a better job of that. For you guys who don't listen to the show live, please just comment, like, share, do all the things to help grow this show. We focus solely on the ACC. We'll dip into the general college athletics world, but we generally focus on the ACC. We appreciate all the support that you guys have given us. And as we head towards New Year's Eve, I'm so appreciative of all of you guys in 2025 that have supported this endeavor. Got a lot more to do, though, for you guys who subscribe, listen, and watch All Access AM in 2026. So we'll see you Wednesday morning, 7 to 8 a.m. Central, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern time. I appreciate all of you guys for listening. I'm Billy Embody. We'll catch you next time on All Access AM.